there, folks. Hope you're doing well today. When we look at World War Epstein, we're seeing it impact so many different things, from worldwide economies to the price we're going to pay at the pump to the bill that the taxpayer is going to have to pick up eventually. But more important than all that is the U.S. service members that are putting their lives on the line. TMZ recently interviewed the wife of a service member who articulated so many different ideas so well, we wanted to dig deeper into it. Let's dive in.
Is your husband okay with this risk? And obviously you're upset about it. It's very clear you disagree with President Trump's decision to start this attack. Do you know how your husband feels?
He's also not happy, and I will say more than any other decision that any commander-in-chief has made, in his entirety being in the military, more service members are being vocally upset about this than we've ever seen before. And I think the thing that people have to keep in mind is that it's one thing to accept taking on risk to protect your country, but it is very obvious to a lot of service members and a lot of military families that this has nothing to do with protecting Americans. This has everything to do with distracting from this administration's dismal performance at home.
Okay, so a lot of ideas there. And the first idea she talks about is how so many service members are against what's happening right now and vocalizing that they're against it. And this is why the Trump administration early on got so many military leaders to pledge their obedience, because they were planning and anticipating doing things that most people would push back on, like starting World War Epstein. She also touches on one of the core ideas of serving, that you're putting your life on the line for your country. When we look to things like the justification of why this war was started or what this distracted from, it's easy to try to make this case that this war wasn't properly justified and these people are putting their lives on the line for reasons outside of protecting the country. Let's keep going.
And what we aren't okay with, what my husband isn't okay with, is risking their lives to serve that distraction. I think the administration needs to make sure they get their story straight before they expect anyone to buy it, given that they've come out, they've said this hasn't been about regime change, that it was about regime change. Ted Cruz went on the news and said that he did not see any evidence that any sort of Iranian strike was even a possibility, much less imminent. So I think it's very clear that they are lying and they're saying whatever they can to get Americans on board with this.
And this is an argument we've been making for a very long time. If this was the 1800s, the Trump administration would do really well. But because we live in a day and age when everything is recorded, there's video evidence of the prior things said, it's hard to twist reality in the ways that they're trying to twist it. Regular Americans can see right through this bullshit. You could only lie so long before all the bullshit lies are exposed. Let's see where she goes next.
And I just hope that people do not fall for the propaganda and do not fall for, they need to understand, not just this administration, a lot of administrations hide behind the idea of you have to always support the troops. And if you criticize the administration, you're criticizing the troops. That is not the case. This administration is putting the troops at risk unnecessarily, and criticizing the administration is supporting the troops. It is protecting the troops. It's horrifying. It's really terrifying. It's months and months of feeling like you're going to throw up every time you hear your doorbell ring, because you know that when you open the door, it could be men in their dress uniform standing there to tell you that your spouse or that your son or that your, whoever it is, that your loved one has been killed. It's terrifying.
And so there we see her touch on a couple of different ideas. One, the important idea of using our First Amendment right to criticize and call out this administration over the actions they're taking. And then in the second part of that, we really see the importance of why we need to take voting very seriously. No one should have to live for months on end feeling like they're going to throw up. We should have leadership that makes sound, stable decisions that are for the good of the country. not ones based on distraction or ego or that of being manipulated by foreign nations to do their bidding.
I think it's also important to note that a lot of the service members that are directly involved in the strikes on Iran, they are already at their wits' end. I mean, there are something like 4,500 sailors signed to the USS Gerald Ford. The USS Gerald Ford, they've had their deployments extended twice already. They have hundreds of broken toilets on their ship, so they have very few facilities they can use. And all of that is because of the impulse decisions of this administration. And I think that's important to note, especially because sailors end up not talking to their families for months at a time. And these are the same men and women that were sent and involved in Venezuela first, and then he just impulse sent them to Iran next. So it's terrifying. It's
Okay, and so here she touches on a lot of concerning ideas. The first is that our military is being stretched thin. You're not giving people the breaks they need when you're extending deployments. This wears down morale, productivity, everything that we need when we're fighting a war. But she also touches on another concerning idea that our Navy has not been properly maintained or refreshed or updated. We are using very old technology. And so, in a scenario where we actually faced a more advanced rival like China, we're going to have some more problems than just the shitters not working. But again, when you look at the big picture, you have a bunch of service members who are on extended deployments in miserable living conditions, putting their lives at risk for things that aren't even justified. And now we've gotten way over our skis and starting a conflict and war that's going to last way longer than anyone ever anticipated. And we see her continuing to use words like terrifying. Again, this is why we need to take voting seriously. This is why we shouldn't elect people who are unstable and driven by ego. But I digress. Let's see how she lands the plane.
there is not there is not any amount of deployments now that can be. We understand not everything about deployment is going to be predictable, but now the way that this administration moves so impulsively has made every second of your loved one being deployed terrifying in a really active, in your face way that it was not before.
So again, we can really see the seriousness of these outcomes. And if what she is saying is true, I'm sure this will later impact enlistment. And this could all lead to backfiring to all these young men who wanted to vote for the pussy-grabbing guy, as they could all be potentially drafted and get stuck on a boat with a bunch of toilets that don't fucking work.